My dear wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation, how to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute, and it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Neville, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced. For feeling is the secret, and your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win, or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it, because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this, every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. Before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle, engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity. But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation, not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies in maintaining your new conversation regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No, his inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws. And his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality. Not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, this isn't working, immediately revise it to, everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now. This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear, you must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation, and like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation, for you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me. If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more. But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. For feeling is the secret. And your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be alive with feeling, rich with the emotion of your desired state, for it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible to your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak, think as that person would think, feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is, not what was or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true, even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity. For your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is. Your consciousness in action, creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are. The operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your universe. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world. Every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about?
Carefully crafting the scenes that will become your life. How does one begin this process of mental training? It starts with awareness. You must become acutely aware of your thoughts, your inner dialogues, your habitual mental patterns. This awareness is the first step towards change. As you go about your day, pay close attention to the quality of your thoughts. Are they predominantly positive or negative? Do they empower you or limit you? Do they align with your desires or contradict them? This process of self-observation can be uncomfortable at first. You may be shocked to discover just how many negative, self-defeating thoughts cross your mind on a daily basis. But do not be discouraged. This awareness is a sign of progress, the first ray of light penetrating the darkness. Once you have developed this awareness, the next step is to consciously choose your thoughts. This is where the real training begins. Just as an athlete trains their body through repetition and discipline, so must you train your mind. Choose thoughts that align with your desires. If you wish for greater abundance in your life, cultivate thoughts of plenty. If you desire improved health, imagine yourself vibrant and full of energy. If you seek loving relationships, fill your mind with thoughts of love and companionship. But mere positive thinking is not enough. You must learn to think from the end. This is a crucial distinction. Do not simply think about your desire. Embody the feeling of already having it. This is the secret of manifestation, the key that unlocks the door to your desired reality. If you desire wealth, do not merely think about having money. Instead, imagine how you would feel if you were already wealthy. What would your day look like? How would you carry yourself? What decisions would you make? Live from that state of consciousness. And you will be amazed at how quickly your outer world begins to align with your inner vision. This principle applies to every aspect of your life. Whatever you desire, be it love, health, success, or personal growth, imagine it is already accomplished. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the gratitude of having your desire fulfilled. Make this feeling so real, so vivid, that your rational mind cannot distinguish it from reality. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, this sounds like mere fantasy. How can simply imagining something make it real? To this, I say, your imagination is not separate from reality. It is the very substance of reality. The world you perceive with your physical senses is but a shadow, reflection of the true reality that exists within your consciousness. Your imagination is not creating something out of nothing. It is tuning into the infinite possibilities that already exist in the realm of pure potential. Think of it this way. Your consciousness is like a radio receiver. Just as a radio can tune into different frequencies to receive different stations, your consciousness can tune into different states of being. When you imagine your desire is fulfilled, you are tuning into the frequency of that reality. It is a key. You must maintain that frequency. This is where discipline comes in. It's not enough to imagine your desire once and then return to your old patterns of thought. You must persistently occupy the state of consciousness that corresponds to your desire. This is why I say you must take the time to train your mind. It requires dedication, persistence, and above all, faith. You must have complete faith in the power of your imagination, unwavering belief in the reality of your desired state. This faith is not blind optimism or wishful thinking. It is a deep, unshakable knowing. It is the kind of faith that allowed Jesus to declare it is done, even before any physical evidence was apparent. How does one cultivate such faith? Through practice. Begin with small things. Imagine a specific event occurring, something modest but unlikely. Perhaps receiving a call from an old friend or finding a particular item you've been seeking, imagine it vividly. Feel it as real and then release it. Do not strain or struggle. Simply know that it is done. As you see these small imaginings come to pass, your faith will grow. You will begin to understand experientially that your imagination truly is creative. And as your faith grows, so too will your ability to manifest larger, more significant desires. But remember, the goal is not merely to acquire things or to achieve external success. The true purpose of this practice is to awaken to your divine nature, to realize that you are one with the creative power of the universe. As you train your mind, you will begin to experience a profound shift in consciousness. You will move from a state of lack and limitation to one of abundance and infinite possibility. You will cease to be a victim of circumstance and become the conscious creator of your reality. This shift in consciousness is the true miracle. The external manifestations, wonderful as they may be, are merely signs fallen. The real treasure is the realization of your oneness with God, the infinite creative power of the universe. Now let us delve deeper into the practical aspects of training your mind. One of the most powerful techniques you can employ is what I call revision. This involves mentally rewriting past events to align with your desired reality. You see, time is not the fixed, linear progression we perceive it to be. The past, present, and future exist simultaneously in the eternal now. And just as you can imagine a desired future, you can also reimagine the past. If there's an event in your past that troubles you, that you feel is holding you back, take the time to revise it in your imagination. See it playing out differently in a way that pleases you. Feel the relief, the joy, the satisfaction of this new version of events. Do this consistently, and you will be amazed at how your perception of the past begins to shift. You may even find that your present circumstances begin to align with this new version of the past, as if it had always been that way. This practice of revision is not about denying reality or living in fantasy. It is about understanding that your consciousness is the only reality, and that by changing your consciousness, you change everything. Another powerful technique for training your mind is what I call the lullaby method. This involves repeating a short, simple phrase that implies your desire is already fulfilled as you drift off to sleep. The moments before sleep are particularly potent for impressing the subconscious mind. As you relax into sleep, your conscious mind relaxes its grip, allowing direct access to the subconscious. By repeating a simple phrase that embodies your desire, you plant the seed of that desire deep within your subconscious mind. For example, if you desire financial abundance, you might repeat to yourself, I am so grateful for my abundant wealth. If you seek improved health, your phrase might be, thank you for my perfect health. The key is to keep it simple, positive, and in the present tense, as if your desire is already a reality. As you drift off to sleep with these words on your lips and in your mind, you are programming your subconscious to align with your desire. Your subconscious mind, which knows no limitations and has access to infinite wisdom and resources, will then go to work to bring your desire into manifestation. But remember, the power lies not in the words themselves, but in the feeling behind them. As you repeat your chosen phrase, feel the gratitude, the joy, the satisfaction of having your desire fulfilled. Let this feeling permeate your entire being as you fall asleep. This practice, done consistently, can produce remarkable results. Many who have employed this technique have reported waking up to find their entire world transformed, as if by magic. But it is not magic. It is simply the law of consciousness in action. Now let's address a common obstacle that many face when beginning to train their minds: the apparent contradiction between their imagined state and their current reality. This is where many falter, allowing the evidence of their senses to overpower their imagination. But I say to you, do not be dismayed by appearances. The physical world you see around you is but a shadow, a reflection of past states of consciousness. It is not the cause of your experience, but the effect. Your true reality is your consciousness, your imagination. When you imaginatively assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are experiencing the true substance of reality. The fact that your physical senses do not yet confirm this new reality is irrelevant. Your senses can only show you what is being, not what will be. This is why faith is so crucial. You must have complete faith in the reality of your imagined state, even when your senses deny it. This faith is not blind belief, but a knowing based on your understanding of the law of consciousness. Consider the biblical story of Abraham, who was promised countless descendants when he was old and childless. The physical evidence contradicted the promise, yet Abraham chose to believe. He lived from the consciousness of being a father of many nations, and in time, the physical reality aligned with his consciousness. This is the kind of faith you must cultivate. When you imagine your desire fulfilled, you must know it to be true with the same certainty that you know the sun will rise tomorrow. This knowing, this unshakable faith, is the bridge that spans the gap between your current circumstances and your desired reality. As you train your mind in this way, you will begin to experience what I call signs following. These are external events or circumstances that confirm your new state of consciousness. They may be small at first. A overheard conversation that mirrors your thoughts, an unexpected opportunity that aligns with your desire, a fortuitous meeting that advances your goals. These signs are not the fulfillment of your desire, but confirmations that you are on the right track. They are encouragements to persist in your new state of consciousness. Do not cling to these signs or demand more of them. Simply acknowledge them with gratitude and continue to live from the state of your wish fulfilled. Now let's address another crucial aspect of training your mind: the importance of detachment. This may seem paradoxical at first. How can you intensely desire something and yet be detached from it? But this detachment is not indifference. It is the calm assurance that your desire is already yours in consciousness, and therefore must manifest in your experience. When you truly live from the state of your wish fulfilled, you no longer anxiously await its manifestation. You are not constantly checking for results or manipulating circumstances to bring about your desire. You simply live your life from your new state of consciousness, knowing that the outer world must conform to your inner reality. This detachment allows the universe to orchestrate the perfect unfolding of your desire. It removes the resistance and anxiety that can block or delay manifestation. It is the ultimate expression of faith. The faith that what is true in consciousness must inevitably express itself, the experience. Practice this detachment in your daily life. When thoughts of lack or doubt arise, gently dismiss them. Do not fight against them or try to forcefully replace them with positive thoughts. Simply return to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Live from that state and let go of any anxiety about when or how your desire will manifest. As you practice this detachment, you may find that your desires begin to manifest in ways you never could have imagined or planned. The universe has infinite channels through which your good can come to you. By detaching from the how and simply living in the consciousness of already having your desire, you open yourself to miracles. Now let's delve into another powerful technique for training your mind: the use of inner dialogue. Your inner conversations, the mental discussions you have with yourself and others, are incredibly potent in shaping your reality. Most people engage in inner dialogue unconsciously, often repeating patterns of worry, doubt, or conflict. But when you become aware of your inner conversations and deliberately shape them to align with your desires, you begin to pay attention to your habitual inner dialogues. Are you constantly defending yourself against imagined criticisms? Are you rehearsing arguments or reliving past conflicts? Are you explaining why you can't have what you want? Once you become aware of these patterns, you can begin to change them. Craft new inner conversations that support your desires. Imagine discussing your success with a friend. Hear yourself confidently explaining your achievements. Feel the joy and pride of sharing good news with loved ones. Make these new inner dialogues as vivid and real as possible. Engage all your senses. Hear the words clearly. See the expressions on people's faces. Feel the emotions of the conversation. Do this regularly, And you will be amazed at how quickly your outer world begins to reflect these new inner realities. Remember, every word you speak in your inner conversations is a seed planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. Choose your inner words carefully, for they will grow into the circumstances of your life. Now let us address a question that often arises when people begin to seriously train their minds. What about action? Do I just sit and imagine, or do I need to do something in the physical world? It's both simple and profound. Inspired action will naturally flow from your new state of consciousness. When you truly live from the state of your wish fulfilled, you will find yourself naturally taking actions that align with that state. These actions will not feel like effort or struggle. They will not be driven by anxiety or lack. Instead, they will feel natural, joyful, almost effortless. You will simply find yourself doing what needs to be done, guided by an inner knowing. This is very different from the frantic, fearful action that many engage in when trying to make things happen through sheer force of will. Such action, born of lack and desperation, often leads to frustration and burnout. Instead, as you train your mind and live from your desired state, you will find that opportunities present themselves. Ideas come to you, and you are moved to take action in ways that perfectly align with your goals. This doesn't mean you become passive. Far from it. You may find yourself working hard.
Let me share with you what actually happens in consciousness during a 72-hour period following a true change in your assumption. The first 24 hours are crucial, as this is when your new assumption begins to take root in your subconscious mind. The second 24 hours strengthen this new pattern, and by the third day, a complete transformation of consciousness has occurred. Many of you wonder why your manifestations seem to take so long, why your reality doesn't immediately reflect your desires. But I tell you this, there is a specific period of gestation for every seed planted in consciousness, just as there is for every seed planted in the earth. 72 hours represents a complete cycle of transformation in consciousness. Consider this. In Scripture, we read of the 3 days Christ spent in the tomb before his resurrection. This is not merely a historical account, but a profound psychological truth. Every transformation in consciousness requires 3 days. It's 72 hours before externalization begins. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your entire approach to manifestation. You stop wondering when your desire will manifest and start understanding the precise law that governs all manifestation. You recognize that time is not an enemy, but a necessary component of psychological gestation. Let me tell you something vital about these 72 hours. They begin the moment you completely accept your desire as an accomplished fact. Not when you start wishing for it, not when you start affirming it, but when you actually accept it as done in your consciousness. Here's a profound truth about this 72-hour period. It operates whether you believe in it or not. Just as a seed will take a specific time to germinate, regardless of whether you understand the process, your assumption will take approximately 72 hours to begin its manifestation, regardless of your conscious beliefs about timing. Think about this. Every major change in your life was preceded by a change in your consciousness approximately 72 hours before its physical manifestation. You may not have been aware of it, but this law was operating nonetheless. This law operates in consciousness with absolute precision, transforming your entire world through a specific sequence that unfolds over these 72 hours. Let me break down for you exactly what happens during this crucial period of transformation. In the first 24 hours, something profound begins to occur in your consciousness. The moment you truly accept your desire as an accomplished fact, your entire inner world begins to reorganize itself around this new assumption. Old patterns of thought begin to dissolve, and a new pattern starts to form. Many of you have experienced fleeting moments of acceptance, only to fall back into doubt and disbelief. But I tell you this, if you can maintain your new assumption for just 72 hours, holding it as true regardless of external evidence, you will set in motion forces that manifest in its manifestation. Consider this. When a woman conceives, she doesn't immediately see external evidence of her pregnancy. Yet from the very first moment of conception, forces are at work within her body, preparing for the manifestation of new life. The same is true of your consciousness during these first 24 hours. During the second 24-hour period, something even more remarkable occurs. Your new assumption begins to affect your subjective world, your thoughts, your feelings, your natural reactions to events. You begin to think from your desire fulfilled rather than of it. Let me tell you something crucial about this second day. This is often when doubt tries to creep in. The external world may still show no evidence of change, and your rational mind may try to convince you that nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, massive reorganization is taking place. Here's a profound truth about the second day. It's the period of death to the old man. Just as Christ spent the second day in the tomb, this is when your old patterns of thought and belief must die to make way for the new. This can feel uncomfortable, even disconcerting, but it's absolutely necessary. Think about this. Every transformation in nature goes through a period where the old form must die before the new can emerge. The caterpillar must cease to be a caterpillar before it can become a butterfly. The same principle applies to your consciousness during these crucial 72 hours. The very discomfort you might feel during this period is evidence that transformation is occurring. Your old patterns of thought and belief are dissolving, making way for your new assumption to take root and grow. The final 24 hours of this 72-hour period are perhaps the most crucial, for this is when the complete transformation of consciousness occurs. This is the period of resurrection, when your new assumption becomes so natural that you can no longer remember how it felt to be in your former state. Let me share with you exactly what happens during these final 24 hours. Your new assumption, which has been gestating in the depths of your consciousness, begins to rise to the surface. It no longer feels like something you're trying to believe. It simply feels like what is. Many of you might experience what seems like a moment of crisis during this final period. But I tell you this, what appears to be a crisis is often a breaking point where the old must give way to the new. It's the darkness before the dawn, the final resistance of the old man before the new man rises. Consider this. In Scripture, it was during the final hours in the tomb that the resurrection occurred. Not gradually, not partially, but in one complete transformation. The same is true of your consciousness during these final 24 hours. The transformation, when it comes, is complete. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your experience of these 72 hours. You stop seeing them as a period of waiting and start recognizing them as a sacred time of transformation. Each hour becomes precious, each moment significant. Let me tell you something vital about these final hours. They often bring what appears to be a complete contradiction to your desire. This is what I call the moment of greatest appearance of failure. But remember, appearances are merely the shadow of past assumptions, not the reality of your present consciousness. Here's a profound truth about this final period. It's when your outer world begins to respond to your new inner conviction. Things begin to shift, often in ways you couldn't have consciously planned or anticipated. People begin to treat you differently. Circumstances begin to rearrange themselves. Think about this. Every great transformation in history appeared darkest just before its completion. The crucifixion preceded the resurrection. The darkest hour comes just before dawn. This principle is reflected in your own consciousness during these final hours. The very circumstances that seem to deny your assumption are often the ones being rearranged to accommodate its fulfillment. What appears to be resistance is actually reorganization. This reorganization of your outer world follows an immutable pattern, much like the transformation of your inner consciousness. Just as a seed must break through the soil that appears to resist it, your new assumption must break through the appearances of your current reality. Let me share with you what actually happens in your outer world during this period. People who seemed indifferent to you suddenly become helpful. Circumstances that appeared fixed begin to shift. Opportunities that weren't visible before suddenly present themselves. All of this occurs not by chance, by law. Many of you observe your outer world anxiously during these 72 hours, looking for signs of change. But I tell you this, the changes are occurring whether you can see them or not. Just as a plant grows beneath the soil before breaking through to the surface, your manifestation is taking form before becoming visible. Consider this: when you plant a seed, the soil must be disturbed. Old patterns must be broken up to make way for new growth. The same is true of your outer world during these 72 hours. What appears as disruption is actually the rearrangement necessary for your new assumption to manifest. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your response to external circumstances during this period. You stop being disturbed by appearances that seem to contradict your assumption. You recognize them as necessary adjustments in the grand pattern of manifestation. Let me tell you something crucial about this reorganization. It often occurs in ways that your conscious mind could never have planned. The wisdom of your subconscious mind, which is one with infinite intelligence, knows exactly how to bring about the conditions necessary for your assumption to materialize. Here's a profound truth about this outer reorganization. It follows the path of least resistance. While your conscious mind might imagine complicated scenarios requiring massive changes, your subconscious mind finds the simplest, most natural way to bring about your desire's fulfillment. Think about this. Every desire you hold contains within itself the seeds of its own fulfillment. When you plant that desire in consciousness through your assumption, it begins to attract and arrange everything necessary for its manifestation. This arrangement often occurs in ways that appear miraculous to the conscious mind. The very circumstances that seem to stand in the way of your desire often become the means of its fulfillment. This is the wisdom of the law operating through the perfect pattern of the 72-hour principle. This pattern unfolds in your experience with a precision that would astonish you if you could see it from a higher perspective. Every thought, every encounter, every seemingly random event during these 72 hours is part of an intricate dance orchestrated by your new assumption. Let me share with you what's actually occurring moment by moment during this period. Your consciousness, having accepted the new assumption, begins to attract corresponding experiences. People begin to treat you according to your new concept of self. Circumstances begin to mirror your inner conviction. This isn't coincidence, it's law. Many of you wonder why certain people suddenly change their behavior toward you, why new opportunities suddenly appear, why solutions to old problems suddenly become clear. But I tell you this, nothing is sudden about it. Each change is the result of your shifted consciousness working through the perfect pattern of these 72 hours. Consider this: when you drop a pebble into a pond, the ripples move outward in perfect circles, affecting every part of the water's surface. Your assumption works in the same way during these 72 hours, sending ripples through the entire fabric of your reality, touching every aspect of your world. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your awareness during this period. You begin to recognize every event, every conversation, every seemingly random occurrence as part of the pattern of fulfillment. Nothing is meaningless. Everything is significant. Let me tell you something vital about this unfolding pattern. It requires no effort on your part beyond maintaining your assumption. You don't need to make things happen. You don't need to manipulate circumstances. The pattern unfolds by law, not by effort. Here's a profound truth about these 72 hours. They represent a complete cycle of transformation, from death of the old to birth of the new. Just as the moon moves through its phases, just as the earth rotates through day and night, your consciousness moves through this perfect pattern of transformation. Think about this. Every great master who ever walked the earth taught this same truth in different words. 3 days in the tomb, the third day resurrection, the threefold pattern of transformation. They were all pointing to this same law that operates in consciousness through the 72-hour cycle. The very experiences you encounter during this period, whether they appear positive or negative, are all part of the perfect pattern of fulfillment. Nothing is out of place. Nothing is accidental. To recognize and work with this pattern requires a complete reversal of your usual way of thinking. Instead of looking to external events for evidence, you must maintain an unshakable awareness of your assumptions, reality these 72 hours. Let me share with you exactly how to maintain this awareness as the pattern unfolds. When you wake each morning during this period, your first thought must be from the consciousness of your wish fulfilled. Before your feet touch the floor, before your mind engages with the day's activities, you must renew your awareness of already being who you desire to be. Many of you start your days by immediately checking external reality for signs of change. But I tell you this, the external will not show evidence until the full 72-hour cycle is complete. Your task during this time is to live from your new assumption regardless of appearances. Consider this: when an actor takes on a role, they must maintain that character's consciousness throughout the entire performance. They can't drop in and out of character and expect to give a convincing performance. The same is true of your new assumption during these 72 hours. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your daily experience. You stop living in anticipation of change and start living from the consciousness of the change already accomplished. This is the secret of working with the pattern rather than against it. Let me tell you something crucial about maintaining this awareness. It's not about forcing yourself to believe something. It's about allowing yourself to feel the naturalness of your new state. The more natural it feels, the more powerfully the pattern works. Here's a profound truth about these 72 hours. Your every reaction, your every response, your every inner conversation must spring from your new assumption. This isn't about pretending or affirming. It's about actually occupying your desired state in consciousness. Think about this. Every time you react from your old state of consciousness, you interrupt the pattern. Every time you respond from your new assumption, you strengthen it. The pattern requires consistency in consciousness to work its perfect law. The very circumstances that tempt you to react from your old state are actually opportunities to strengthen your new assumption. Each challenge is a chance to prove the reality of your inner transformation. These challenging moments during the 72 hours are not obstacles to your manifestation. They are vital parts of the pattern itself. They are opportunities to prove the reality of your new state in consciousness. Let me share with you exactly what to do when these moments arise. When circumstances seem to contradict your assumption, when people act contrary to your desired experience, when everything appears to be moving in the opposite direction. These are the moments when your new consciousness must be maintained with even greater conviction. Many of you interpret challenging circumstances as evidence that your assumption isn't working. But I tell you this, these very circumstances are part of the bridge of incidents, necessary events that must occur to bring about the fulfillment of your desire. They are not obstacles, but stepping stones. Consider this. When you're driving at night, the headlights illuminate only a small portion of the road ahead. Yet you trust that as you continue moving forward, more of the path will be revealed. The same trust is required during these 72 hours. You don't need to see the entire path. You need only maintain your assumption. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your response to challenging circumstances. Instead of being discouraged by apparent contradictions, you begin to welcome them as confirmation that the old patterns are dissolving to make way for the new. Let me tell you something vital about these challenging moments. They often intensify just before the manifestation of your desire. This intensification is not a sign of failure, but a sign that the old patterns are making their final stand before dissolving completely. Here's a profound truth about handling these moments. Your only task is to remain faithful to your assumption. You don't need to fight circumstances, argue with appearances, or try to force changes. Your task is simply to maintain your consciousness of the wish fulfilled. Think about this. Every great manifestation in history was preceded by a period of apparent contradiction. The darkest hour comes just before dawn. The seed must completely break down before the new plant can emerge. These are not merely poetic metaphors. They are descriptions of the law in operation. The very circumstances that seem most opposed to your desire are often the ones being rearranged to bring about its fulfillment. What appears as resistance is actually reorganization. This process of reorganization during the 72 hours follows a precise pattern that, understood, will transform your entire approach to manifestation. What appears as chaos in your outer world is actually perfect order taking shape according to your new assumption. Let me share with you what's actually happening during this reorganization. Your entire world, every person, every circumstance, every condition must adjust itself to match your new assumption. This adjustment often appears as disruption before the new pattern emerges. Many of you become discouraged when your world appears to be falling apart during these 72 hours. But I tell you this, what appears to be falling apart is actually falling into place. The old patterns must dissolve before the new patterns can emerge, just as old structures must be demolished before new ones can be built. Consider this when you rearrange furniture in a room. There's always a moment when everything appears to be in chaos. The room looks worse before it looks better. The same principle applies to the reorganization of your world during these 72 hours. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your perception of change. You stop resisting the apparent chaos and start recognizing it as a necessary part of the reorganization. You understand that disorder is often the prelude to a new and higher order. Let me tell you something crucial about this reorganization. It affects not only your external circumstances, but also your inner world. Old thought patterns dissolve, old emotional responses fade away, old habits naturally fall aside as your new assumption takes root. Here's a profound truth about this process. It works with mathematical precision. Just as water must reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit to boil, just as a seed must remain in darkness before it sprouts, your consciousness must maintain your assumption for approximately 72 hours for complete reorganization to occur. Think about this. Every major shift in your life followed this same pattern, whether you were conscious of it or not. A change in consciousness always preceded a change in circumstance by approximately 72 hours. This is not coincidence, it is law. The very disruption you experience during this period is evidence that the law is working. Your world is reorganizing itself to match your new assumption with perfect precision. This precision of the law operating through the 72-hour principle is as exact as any law in physics or mathematics. It operates with the same certainty that brings dawn after night, spring after winter, harvest after planting. Let me share with you exactly how this precision manifests in your experience. During these 72 hours, everything, every word you speak, every action you take is either aligned with your new assumption or contradicts it. There is no neutral ground. The law registers everything with perfect precision. Many of you wonder why some manifestations seem to come easily while others appear to resist your efforts. But I tell you this, the law is never working more or less effectively. The only variable is your consciousness, your ability to maintain your assumption consistently throughout the 72-hour period. Consider this, when you drop an object, gravity doesn't sometimes work and sometimes fail. It operates with perfect precision every time. The same is true of this law of consciousness. Your assumption held steadily for 72 hours must manifest with the same certainty that a released object must fall. When you truly understand this principle, something remarkable happens to your approach to manifestation. You stop hoping and start knowing. You stop pleading and start accepting. You stop wondering if it will work and start living from the certainty that it must work. Let me tell you something vital about this precision. It operates independently of your past experiences, your current circumstances, or others' opinions. The law responds only to your consciousness, your assumption maintained over these 72 hours. Here's a profound truth about this precise operation of law. It works the same way for everyone every time. Just as mathematics doesn't play favorites, just as gravity doesn't discriminate, this law operates with perfect precision for anyone who applies it correctly. Think about this. Every successful manifestation you've ever experienced, whether consciously or unconsciously, followed this precise pattern. The law didn't bend or make exceptions. It simply outpictured with mathematical precision whatever you assumed to be true. The very precision that seems to work against you when you doubt is the same precision that works for you when you maintain your assumption. The law is always working with perfect accuracy. Working with this precision requires a complete understanding of how consciousness operates during these 72 hours. Your every thought, your every inner conversation, your every feeling must align with your assumption with the same precision that a mathematician applies to equations. Let me share with you exactly how to maintain this precise alignment. When you wake in the morning, your first thought must be from your new state. When you go about your day, your inner conversations must reflect your assumption. When you fall asleep at night, you must sleep as though your desire is already fulfilled. Many of you approach manifestation with a mixture of old and new states, shifting between doubt and belief, between old patterns and new assumptions. But I tell you this, the law requires precision. You cannot serve two masters. You must choose your assumption and maintain it with unwavering fidelity. Consider this when a watchmaker assembles a timepiece. Every gear, every spring, every component must be precisely aligned. A single misaligned piece affects the entire mechanism. The same is true of your consciousness during these 72 hours. Every aspect must be in perfect alignment. When you truly grasp this principle, something remarkable happens to your mental discipline. You become acutely aware of your thoughts, your inner conversations, your reactions. You recognize that each mental movement either supports or undermines your assumption. Let me tell you something crucial about this precision. It extends to your emotional state as well. You must feel with the same precision that you think. The feeling of your wish fulfilled must be so precise that it becomes your dominant emotional state. Here's a profound truth about working with this precision. It requires constant vigilance during these 72 hours. You cannot afford mental laziness or emotional indulgence in the old state. Every moment must be lived from your new assumption with mathematical precision. Think about this. Just as a scientist in a laboratory must maintain precise conditions for an experiment to succeed, you must maintain precise conditions in consciousness for your assumption to manifest. There can be no contamination from doubts, no dilution with fears. The very precision that makes this law seem demanding is what makes it infallible. When you maintain your assumption with mathematical accuracy, the law must respond with equal precision.